All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamie Trujillo, and I am here with the brilliant Cash Clifton. And we are co-presenting today, talking about mental health resources for students and educators. And the vast majority of this webinar will be done via Nearpod. So just as a reminder, if you can, please leave this tab open, but open up a new tab or a new window. Go to join.nearpod.com and put in the code that you see right there, SVBEG. And you will be able to follow along as we talk.
And I'm excited to see the list of attendees growing. Welcome, everybody.
Yes.
So join.nearpod.com and the code SVBEG. So we'll hold off just a little bit longer.
Yes.
And if you are watching the recording, this link is not unfortunately going to work after the fact. However, Jamie will be sharing her screen on student view, so you're still more than welcome to follow along with this on your own if you're watching the recording.
Yes.
If you're live, I hope you will join us in Nearpod. Okay. So, Jamie, would you go ahead and take over control of the screen and share the student view of Nearpod?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I occasionally bungle up I've bungled up privacy stuff in these webinars before, so I wanted to have somebody else share student view. All right. So this is mental health resources for students and educators, and I think we kind of tossed around for a minute the idea of doing mental health resources for students, and then kind of came to this joint conclusion that actually it's probably useful for all of us. Mental health is a really big deal always, but I think it's an extra big deal during the pandemic when many of us are stuck at home or going into situations that are uncomfortable. And so I think that's true for students and educators. So I hope this webinar is a couple of things. I hope it gives you some additional resources to take away. You'll probably see some things you already know. Hopefully you learn a few new things. But I also hope that at the end, you can also take an opportunity to unwind a little bit and engage in a little bit of self-care, because teachers get burned out a lot. I've gotten burned out as a teacher before. I'm feeling a little burned out right now, to be perfectly honest. So we're going to take try to stop at the end and practice a little self-care. So welcome. And again, if you're just joining us, we're going to be working in Nearpod, and there is a code in the chat there. And Jamie and I will make an effort to keep on top of the chat if anybody's having issues. Okay. So Jamie, would you like to describe this first poll?
Yes, this is our, yes, we're going to have a short connection activity. And so it's just a quick 1-minute poll, and you're going to answer this multiple choice question.
Okay, so which of these statements best describes you and or your students?
And all you have to do is pick A, B, or C. Which statement best describes you and or your students?
Yeah, and you have a little timer on there, so you have about 45 seconds remaining.
What was the code?
I will put it in the chat, but go ahead, Cash.
Thank you. It's SVBEG.
SVBEG.
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. Glad to see you, Nancy.
Hey, how are you?
As always.
Okay, I think that's where I'm at then.
Awesome. Looks like almost everybody's responded. We have about 5 more seconds. If you didn't get a chance to respond, that's okay. Okay, and so I'm going to share results on
So
board.
It looks like, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing those answers. It looks like vast majority say, I sometimes try to practice self-care, but oftentimes find that I am too busy to focus on anything other than work, school, or home activities or responsibilities. And considering that was also my answer, I feel you there, 100%.
And that should probably be more like 87% because I wasn't fast enough to answer. So actually plus one more in that category. So I'm really glad we're going to take a little time to practice self-care today. So
Absolutely.
cool. All right. Let's see here. Jamie, do you want to introduce the sixth one for us?
All right, so the next thing we're going to do is a bit of a scavenger hunt. And what you're going to do is you're going to find in your area resources for these categories. Okay, so the first category is going to be adult education and college or other post-secondary site resources. So adult education, college, or site resources.
And if you don't know that's okay. So what we're gonna do is give you a little chance to look at these things, and then this will be kind of a guided activity where we'll show you some resources that you can click through. So if your answer is I have no freaking idea, that is totally okay. So we're gonna give you 2 minutes to respond to this first prompt anonymously.
And it is an open-ended question, okay? So that allows you to just type in whatever you like.
Yep. So what, if any, mental health resources are you aware of in your program, college, site, or community? If you don't know, who could you ask or where could you look? Dang, a couple of you type fast. Ready. A little bit under a minute remaining on this one. Just a couple more people. It was interesting watching the results on this side because it seems like there were a couple of people who were really quick with the resource, and there's a couple of people who weren't here, who aren't quite sure where to start. So I find that very interesting. If you're not sure where to start, I'm going to give you some direction on the next page here. Okay, fantastic. Time is up. So I am going to share a couple of these. So I'm going to say here, one person knows there's a community health center. So the state of New Mexico will tell you there is a community provider for every community in New Mexico. I am from Eastern New Mexico, and I know even like Fort Sumner and Melrose technically have a provider, although in those small communities, it can be tough. Resources are spread kind of thin in the state, as we definitely all know. It's interesting, a couple of people referred to UNM specifically, so I found that very, very interesting. And then I found some people who could ask people in their community. Another idea is to ask other teachers. So all great ideas. So the next thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to put a list of providers in the chat here. So bear with me. I'm not nearly as organized as I would be in a perfect world. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to start this activity.
So this next part is, please visit the state of New Mexico's website and search for providers in your area. What providers did you find?
And did the link come through with that?
The link is not on the Nearpod, no.
Oh, darn you, technology. Let me see.
Is it newmexico.gov or is it a different one?
It is through newmexico.gov, but there was a
Okay.
really specific page that I loved. Yeah, it's a little the state has a drop down where you can see everybody, and it's really buried in their website, and I can't believe I lost it.
Karina just asked about rld.state.nm.us.
Okay. How is that one? Is that something people recommend?
It is showing like an overview of types of counselors, and then there's like a phone number to call, and an
Okay.
email for people, I think for therapists.
Fabulous. Oh, I think I might have the one that I had in mind. Let me just test it real quick and make sure this is it. Well, my apologies on this one. We're almost out of time. I will have to follow up to this webinar.
But thank you so much, Karina, for putting that link in the chat.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. And Claire put another one in the chat.
You rock,
which is
Claire.
the HSD website, providers overview.
Thank
Fabulous.
you. Claire, that might be it. Oh my gosh, that's it. Thank you, Claire. So that website that Claire put in the chat is indeed the website I was looking for. Claire, I owe you dinner or something. Thank you so much on that. All right, well, let's see. Okay, hooray. The link is working in the next one. Jamie, do you want to introduce this next one, or would you like me to?
Sure, no problem. Okay, so this next one is exploring the Children, Youth, and Family CYFD department. And you can see there's childcare resources at that website. And so just share out any resources that you found interesting, that you found helpful.
Okay, and I did share a direct link to this in the Meet chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Cash.
And if trying to navigate all these websites feels overwhelming, imagine how our poor students feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry to be pessimistic, but I guess that's realistic. So I'll give just another minute or so on this one. I don't think I have a timer here, but I do have answers starting to come in. So we'll just give another minute or so. Oh, I'm glad to see more people joining. Okay. So if you're still working, that's fine. Go ahead and finish your thought and submit to Nearpod. If you don't get to it, that's fine too, though. But a couple of key things that people discovered is that you can apply for childcare assistance right from the website. So people can apply for childcare assistance online. And CYFD is kind of scary to a lot of people. And I'm not a parent, but I feel like it might be a little scary to, as a parent, because I think people think of CYFD and they think they're the people that take kids away in the middle of the night for abuse, and that is part of what CYFD does, from my understanding. But they also do offer childcare assistance and try to be proactive and help parents too. So yeah, so it looks like almost everybody's responded. So I'm going to go ahead and put the answers up. Okay, so here you can apply for childcare assistance from the website. This is a really good one too. So I'm going to drop this into our chat actually, so that we have this. So that is in our Meet chat now. So there's their behavioral health program hotline, and then the interactive map of their services. And here we have a coping skills poster. Posters, it looks like. We'll add
That's
those into the
great.
chat. Yeah. NewMexicoKids.org. Yep. I'm not going to copy the question mark over because I like it. So yeah, that's a great one. Children's Trust Fund. I never thought of that one. So it looks like there's quite a bit in terms of resources. And I guess I won't share who said this unless they want to, but oh darn it, I'm having technical difficulties. Yeah, right on the money on that one. A lot of our students do cringe when you mention CYFD. So yeah, that is a really important thing. But I have had students in the past that got some pretty decent financial assistance through CYFD in terms of childcare. So it can be a scary place, but it can be a good place too. Okay, child development. Thank you, Gail. Okay, this last one I'll go ahead and introduce. So this is to take a couple of minutes to look at the Income Support Division website. This one I do have a timer on, so this one will be 3 minutes. And there's the link directly in Meet if you would like to chat, to click on it there. We have a couple of experts on ISD in the webinar today, I believe. So if anybody would like to jump on the mic and add anything, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear.
That would be great.
We have about 1.5 minutes remaining. So if you find anything interesting, please let us know through Nearpod.
And since my screen is being shared, I'm going to go to that website real quick for folks who are watching the recording.
About 30 seconds left. Looks like almost everybody's answered, waiting on just a couple of people, so lots of good ideas here. 5 more seconds. Okay. So let's share some answers. So I'm going to go ahead and share. This was Jamie's PEBT updates. Jamie, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Sure. So for anybody who has a child who qualifies for free or reduced lunch or goes to a school where all the children get free or reduced lunch, for any time that the student was 100% online, they will get EBT just like SNAP benefits in the amount of, I believe it said $5.86 a day. So for families who have to have their kids at home and they're a little worried about how they're going to feed their kids when normally the school would, that's still happening. There's still fall PEBT. So I'm not sure exactly what the P stands for. I cannot remember. But that was food stamp or SNAP benefits for families whose kids were impacted and had to be home.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my answer next. So this isn't necessarily through ISD, but this is a cool thing out of Albuquerque, supported by UNM. It's called the Innovation Academy, and it's a free program for students who own a business or who want to own a business someday. So I know I get students who maybe don't want to go and get a certificate, or they don't want to go and pursue higher ed. They want to get started, and as far as like the forms and how do you do this and the legal stuff and all the stuff to get that started. The Innovation Academy has some really cool things. I think they can even help students look for grants and stuff like that for startup money. So that's a really cool resource I'm aware of. Here's USDA food distribution programs. Ooh, the incarceration toolkit. Claire, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
What would you? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I guess I am. What would you mind saying a little bit about this?
I don't have too much to say about it since I was just kind of browsing the website, but it looks like information for guardians that maybe are taking care of a child that has an incarcerated parent, or maybe a co-parent, so resources for them, information for job fairs and links to job fairs, information on, and just eligibility information if you qualify for other programs that can be offered through HSD.
That's amazing. Thank you, Claire. And I won't put anybody on the spot like that. I promise I won't do that again. So here's is this a healthcare coverage connector? So if anybody does want to chime in and say anything about their resources when it comes up, you're more than welcome to do so. Ooh, looking for information from Income Support Division. That's really cool. I think that's a really cool idea. We found eligibility guidelines. Yes, those are always wonderful. And then, of course, yeah, job fairs. I think a very underutilized resource in our state. And I think those are still going on online, I believe. So, yeah. Great. Lots of good stuff there. And, of course, when it comes to mental health, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like your student's safe, if you have that little voice in the back of your head that says this isn't safe, I tend to say err on the side of caution. In these things. So there are true mental health emergencies. That's not something a teacher is really qualified to deal with, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think many people are qualified to deal with that. So if you think it's an emergency, yeah, please just dial 911 when in doubt. So, okay, Jamie, anything else you'd like to add about that activity?
What we can do, just so you guys know after this, the text, the chat is also saved. So all of these websites that we put in the chat, we will be able to send those out or attach them to the recording on our YouTube channel. So we'll make sure to get those resources out to everybody. So if you have any other websites that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will make sure they get out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think in terms of the complexity of all this stuff at the state level, I think teachers working together and sharing what we know is really good. And I mean, as this webinar demonstrated, we've got a lot of very knowledgeable teachers in our state, and I love being in New Mexico. So let's clear some mental clutter. That's a lot in terms of resources. I don't know. I feel like we threw a lot of stuff at you right there. So let's practice a little self-care. And I want to walk you through something that has really, really helped me over the past year or so. And it's a non-linear way to get organized. So most of us are trained in a very linear system in terms of organization, like keep a calendar, be very consistent on that, have a to-do list, be very consistent on that. And those are very linear ways of organizing your schedule. And I'm not bagging on those things. I mean, they work. I keep an Outlook calendar. I keep a Google calendar. I still do all that stuff. But I don't know about the rest of you. But sometimes I have those days where I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm emotional. I don't know. Maybe I'm just grouchy and crabby. But I have those days where like I really can't do this. And this is where this is a pretty cool system. So this is from Psychology Today. And this is a non-linear way to get yourself organized. And the idea is you do this by clearing some mental clutter. And I've just felt, I don't know, when I have those days where it feels like I have 26 hours worth of stuff to do in 24 hours, that's the time where this is so very, very helpful to me. So this isn't a standalone system. This is just really good in terms of self-care, in my opinion. Feel free to modify it as it will best work for you. So what you do is you sit down with a piece of paper and you write the date at the top. So you can see in Nearpod here, or if you're following along in Meet, you can see on Jamie's screen that you put the date at the top, and on the left you create a column of things you've accomplished, and then on the right you find a column of things that you need to do. So those of you who have done some coaching trainings with me, you're going to recognize this concept of creative, resourceful, and whole. So a to-do list is sitting down and focusing on your deficits. It's focusing on everything you haven't done. It's very much focusing on the negative. This is the opposite of that. This is sitting down to focus on the positive. So instead of sitting down and focusing on everything you haven't done, sit down and think of everything you've accomplished. And the parameters of that you can define for yourself. So it could be, what did I accomplish today? What did I accomplish this week? What did I accomplish this term? I mean, really, what's going to be best for you in this moment? And I can tell you all those days where I'm feeling really overwhelmed, and then I sit down and I write out my accomplished list. I am absolutely shocked that I actually get more done in a day than I give myself credit for. So this is an opportunity to view yourself as creative and resourceful and whole, and to begin by celebrating what you've already accomplished. Now, as you do that and you think, oh, well, I did this, but that reminds me I need to do something different, that's what you jot down in the column in the right. So as you go through this process of focusing what you've accomplished, in your brain, you have these little moments, oh yeah, and that jogs my memory, then I need to do this. Then you're also building your to-do list as you go. It's just a very small tweak because you're starting with your strengths and working from there. So it's really different, and it may feel really strange at first, but I'm a pretty big fan. Does anybody have any questions or anything before we give this a try?
And please feel free to put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute.
So here's a day that was a disaster for me. I don't know how well you can see this. It may be kind of tiny. So the red, so this was from February 11th, 2020. And holy crap, if I'd only known on February 11th, 2020, what was coming a month later, it probably would have put things in perspective. Oh my gosh. So that's why I specifically chose this day. But this was one of those days where I was like, I am so overwhelmed. I'm not accomplishing anything. I don't know what's going on. And I sit down. And so if you can see there, the red is what I accomplished that day. And the green is my to-do list. So if you noticed, what I accomplished for that day was like a quarter of a page, whereas my to-do list took, what is that, like 3 3/4 of a page, bit of a problem. Well, I sat down and I did this, and then I realized, oh my gosh, it was my grandma's birthday. And I was like emotionally kind of fragile that day because it was my grandma's birthday. I wasn't doing anything, and I went, you know what? I need to go rest. I need to go work in my garden. I am not being productive on work. I need to be up doing things. And so I talked to my boss, and I just took the afternoon off because I wasn't getting anything done. And here's where I fell in love with the system, is then I had to flip the next day. So this is, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is the 12th. So this is the next day. And now it's the reverse. Now my to-do list is only a quarter of a page, and my accomplished list is like a page and a half long. And I'm of the opinion that I got more done in those 2 days combined because I recognized that I needed self-care. Like it was an emergency self-care situation on the 11th, which led me to getting so much more done on the 12th than I probably would have on the 11th and 12th combined. So I just wanted to share that with you. There's different ways to do it. I do it electronically. Sometimes I do it very colorfully. Sometimes I do it very black and white. There's really not a wrong way to do this. But so what I'm going to ask for you to do is I'm going to ask for you to take a few minutes to journal, and I'm going to ask that you follow this format of journal. I'm going to use the Draw It feature on Nearpod. So if you're somebody techie and you just want to play with a cool new tool, you can try to do it electronically in Nearpod. Or if you would like, just sit down and do it pen and paper. And as you saw, I tend to favor pen and paper. Those of you who've done training from the back of the room as Sharon Bowman stuff with Tina and I, from that research, you use different parts of your brain when you're actually physically writing something on paper. So as much as I'm a hippie and I want to protect the environment, I do think there's some value in doing this on paper. So just take a few minutes to do this. Date at the top, accomplished on the left, to do on the right, and begin with your strengths. Begin with what you've accomplished. Don't begin with what you haven't done. So I'm going to start the activity. You'll be able to see this graphic on Nearpod. Again, you can do this in Nearpod or do this on paper. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes for this. Feel free to jump on the mic if you would like to add anything as we do this activity.
Hi, this is Jessica Chavira.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to say, that's a good idea. I do work, so I work for Eastern part-time, and then I work at an attorney's office.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it's pretty good. I mean, I have to always have kind of like a to-do list and, everything that needs to be done, what I have already done and what I need to follow up with. Especially because, I have fibromyalgia. So it's a little hard for me to remember all those things. So it's a really good idea to have, that to do. And first thing in the morning, what I do is I check that and I make sure, if I already got something done, then I cross it out. And if I follow up on something, then I put the date and the time that I followed up on that specific, matter. And then I put myself a deadline of kind of when I need to follow up again or what I need to do. And that kind of keeps me on track for everything.
Fabulous.
So it's a really good idea.
Fabulous.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you sharing that. And if you have a pen and paper handy, I hope you'll take a couple of minutes and try to make a little list of some things you've accomplished lately that you feel good about.
Yeah.
It's been a hard semester, y'all. Give yourself a little pat on the back. We survived. Peggy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. I really like this idea of the accomplished list, but I don't see like check marks or anything. What happens when you accomplish something? Do you actually erase it from one side and put it on the other, or do you just not do it again until the next day? And the next day, if you have to-dos, do you write them again? I guess, yeah, because the date's on top, right?
Well, the short answer is, for me, it depends on the day. So this is meant to be a stress release activity, and I try not to create a lot of strict rules. So there are some days where it feels really good going back and accomplishing my to-do list, and crossing things off. And so sometimes I do cross things off. Other days I don't have like the mental energy to do that at the end of the day. And usually in those cases, that's where I sit down and start with the accomplished list the next day. So I think it's personal preference, but for me, it just depends on the mental capacity I have at the end of a long day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy.
And Claire says this would be great for advisory in middle school and high school, and I completely agree.
Oh my God, Claire, please make that happen. That would be so cool. And can you imagine if when you were like 13 or 14, if somebody had showed you this as an option? I don't know, that could be amazing.
Absolutely.
It's not the only way by any means, but it's a cool way.
Now it looks like Nancy, you have your hand raised.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that now that I'm home all the time, I write my to-do list on my bathroom mirror.
Okay.
It works.
Do you use like a marker, or what do you do that with?
Yeah, just
Okay.
a marker that can be erased, and write it on there, and then just take it off when I have it done.
Yeah. So Claire suggested an expo marker. That's a really good idea. When I was a graduate student studying math and hating life, I used to keep a whiteboard at the foot of my bed. So when I was anxious and couldn't sleep, I would be like, okay, I'll just memorize formulas. I feel like the mirror is much healthier.
That's great, though. I remember being in college and hating life when I took math classes, so I understand that.
Aw, poor kid.
I'm wondering about the difference of having it on paper and being able to look at it, or erasing it.
Boy, that's interesting, Peggy. Could you say a little more about that, please?
Well, I just think that, you look at this list and you see what you accomplished, and you can go back and see what you've done. But if you erase it, it's gone, right? And you don't remember anything. And especially thinking about, I was a director and I supervised a large staff, and I would ask them when it was time for a performance review, what have you accomplished? And they're like, I come every day and do my job. And I think that something like this could help employees really think about that, in terms of a big picture of what they're actually doing, what they've actually accomplished, projects you've completed, that can be used in that kind of a situation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peggy. I was really thinking of this from the perspective of like clearing mental clutter and celebration and celebrating your strengths and all of that. But yeah, it could be used in an administrative capacity like that as well. Gail, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I am very nonlinear. As a matter of fact, I get up in the morning and I do a round robin of stuff. I call it my round robin. I start making the bed. I start putting dishes away. I start putting out my yoga mat for exercise. And I just kind of like go around in a circle in my apartment and do all that stuff. And so like I made my accomplished list, and I have a lot of start this, start that, start this, start that, which I could probably put on both sides. And then I have a few, all that stuff that I did, you know, like that round robin from this morning. Yeah, that's all done. And I can say that I did it. So I don't know what to do, because I mean, you know, I kind of go from one task to the other, one room to the other, and finally it all gets done.
One thing I love about you, Gail, is you are kind of a non-linear person, and I am too, and we have fun. This is just me thinking out loud. What if you added a third column of things you started in the middle?
Okay. Yeah, I could
like
do that.
Accomplished, started, to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just an idea. Nancy, do you have your hand up?
I was just thinking that would be an awesome thing to do, to put that third column, because I'm always afraid I'm going to forget something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had that third column, it would remind you, I think.
Yeah, maybe it could be a reminders column. I mean, you could really do a lot with it.
Or you could do, like I put all of those started things in my accomplished, but the ones that I really accomplished, I checked off.
See, that's a good system too. That is. Peggy, do you have your hand up again?
Well, I was just thinking about, you know, COVID fatigue and being at home, how it's kind of hard, you know, like when you're at home, like if you're away at work, you're doing things, but when you're at home, like I can turn right now and see a load of laundry right there that I need to do. And so even that I did do a load of laundry this morning also was an accomplishment. And that I'm even that I remembered and came to this webinar as an accomplishment for me, because to me these lines are blurry, you know. The lines are blurry working from home, and sometimes it does feel like, did I work enough today, or did I work all day? I didn't do anything. I should have put, you know, something in the crock pot, whatever. And that's what I'm thinking about mental clutter, is that being physically in a different space, even though it's been a good few, you know, 8 or 9 months now, it still can be, you can still get discombobulated with all the responsibility.
You know, our college has, you know, like, because they know about us getting distracted by our housework and stuff. And so they have all of our supervisors have us make a schedule on our calendar. We do it through Outlook, and because that's our email. And you know, I was being kind of a free spirit before. One of the other my other coworkers, who's in charge of technology, helped me make a regular schedule. And now I'm really holding myself to, yes, I know I owe my employer those hours, and I have to be pretty strict about my breaks and this and that. And I'd rather give a little extra than not give enough, because I want to keep my job.
Well, and I think you care. And I think all teachers all the teachers that care give a little extra. All the teachers that stick around. You guys, I know everybody. I know all you guys care. And that goes back to just showing up for this webinar as an accomplishment. It shows you care.
But can't you imagine that any institution and any employer, and somebody's working from home? I mean, that person could say, I don't really feel like working today, and they don't work.
Can you imagine?
Happen.
So I read an article that productivity is through the roof.
Really?
Overall, companies are talking about it. And my daughter, for one, they're staying home for the next year, but productivity is through the roof of people being at home. And if you think about it, sometimes I'd come into the office, go in the break room, get my coffee, run into my colleague, shoot the breeze for a good 20 minutes, go back to my office, do other things. And I mean, when I'm sitting at my desk here, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working. And actually, I think that's an important thing, Gail, to realize, because especially if you're hourly, you should not be working over your actual time. I mean, that's against the law. So, of course, it's fuzzy for teachers, as we all know. But when you put things like that, you realize how much more. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I interrupted you. Continue, Peggy.
Well, okay, but I'm not exactly a teacher right now. Right now, I'm working on our literacy program. That means I'm doing a lot of research online in front of my computer. And, sometimes my brain gets pretty dull after doing it for hours, right? And it sure is tempting to take longer than a, like 5-minute break per hour.
Well, one thing I would, Peggy, the one thing that you made me think of is, since our focus is on self-care today and mental health, it does bring up the point of kind of American society and how we glorify the people who work the most, and how in some ways our society glorifies people who don't have healthy boundaries at work. And I'm not speaking about you in particular, Gail. I'm sure you know that, but I just want to be explicit about that. But I do think Peggy's speaking to a larger issue within our society. I certainly don't always have the best boundaries with work. Many of you have received like 3 a.m. emails from me and know that. So thank you. I'm really loving all of your discussions, and I definitely want to continue this discussion. So those of you who know TBR probably saw the first 3 C's. So now we're to our conclusion activity on a Jamboard. So Jamie, would you speak to this, please?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears from Nearpod. We're going to go over to Jamboard, and I'm going to put the link in the chat. And I just would like you to share some self-care techniques that you already use for other people.
And if I can just add, if I set Nearpod up right, you should be able to just click that blue link and it'll take you to the Jamboard.
Thank you so much.
See if I did I do it right? Oh my gosh, I did it right.
See.
Okay.
It's funny. There we go. Yes, it's here.
Okay.
So
that goes on my accomplished list. I got that link to work.
So you can either use the Nearpod or you can use the link that's in the chat. And you just want to either with a sticky note or with a text box or even with an image. You can even use an image. What are some of your self-care techniques that you would like to share with the group that have really been helping you out, especially as Cash said at the very beginning of this webinar, as we come to a time of the year where burnout is very common. Right before Christmas break, we get a lot of burnout. What are some things that you are doing in this, the most unique of years that has ever happened in my lifetime? What are you doing? Let's help each other out. Let's share. And we'll give everybody about 5 minutes. Let me move some of these around. It looks like they're coming in on top of each other, so. I'm going to make some of these bigger. Oh, great image. Oh, yes. canned Cool Whip in the fridge and have a yummy hot cocoa with Cool Whip as an afternoon treat. Oh, I usually, what's so awesome is I think of that sometimes, or a lot of times, as an evening thing. So to have hot cocoa in the afternoon sounds both comforting and energizing at the same time. And I think putting a timer on social media is very healthy. Celebrating that we made it through an all online term is excellent. I think that's fabulous. Just that positive self-talk, telling yourself that it's okay. And it is okay to, ignore texts and emails and wait until the next morning to answer them. Like Peggy was saying, sometimes we ask ourselves, did I do enough work? Or maybe you find that you're working all day long because you're working from home. It's okay to just close that computer from time to time. And I love these images: reading, meditation, walking in nature, cooking. Man, these are really, really, really great. And yes, take a break from technology over the holiday break. Read a book, a hard cover, like an actual physical book, right? Go for a walk if you can. One thing that I personally love to do when it's open is to go to the botanical garden and walk through it. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's a way to get into nature even if you're in the middle of the city. Yes, and away from office email is very helpful. And having those links, that's fabulous. I love that. And away from office auto email with helpful links for the students for the weekend. That's great.
If I may?
Yes, absolutely.
So like taking time for myself, for me, it's taking time for myself and my family. And even if it's, a little bit like after work and stuff, because it seems like there's not enough hours in the day to finish whatever I have to finish. Yes. But even if it's for an hour, even if it's whatever it is, and I try to make it, that time, it's for me, for my family, and it's meaningful time. It's away from everybody.
Very good. Yes. Drinking water. I love that. Drink lots of water.
I'm so glad you're here on the phone, by the way. I did add your comment to our Jamboard electronically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And that is very important to have just conscious, meaningful family time. That is very, very important. And I think somebody had put it, they get rid of their notifications on their phone too. Like if you turn off your notifications at a certain time, after 5 p.m., 6 p.m., you turn off your notifications, you can turn them back on the next day. And that is really nice. Because if you're like...
You can also set up your notifications to automatically turn off at a certain time. So this semester, one thing I did differently is my notifications are off from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m.
That is fabulous.
From it, which is still a lot. But I
still
like 8 to 8
Well, and I have an Apple Watch, and so when it vibrates on my wrist, it actually sometimes causes anxiety. So that I got to work on too.
That's something that I really need to work on, because I really don't know how to do that. And I do have another friend who says, I turn off my notifications as soon as I'm done with work. I turn it off. But that's something that I guess I need to work on, because I'm always concerned that, am I missing something? Like, is a student going to email me something, or are they going to be, I don't know, can I help them? And I don't know. It's just hard for me to turn that off sometimes.
I think that's a really good point. And so the one thing that's coming to my mind, so the Quality Matters best practice on that is to tell your students from the very, very beginning what hours you are and are not available. So generally, if you tell students from the very beginning, hey, I'm not available from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m., I think that's what reasonable people would do. I'm not the person to ask for that. But if you just set that standard from the beginning, that usually that's the painless way to do that.
Yeah, and I try to do that, but then sometimes, I feel bad, because if they really have a question, or, because a lot of the students work too. So I know that a lot of them, work until 5 or 6 or even later than that. I just kind of feel bad not responding, or I don't know. But I do have to.
I feel you. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
another group, I heard that a teacher was she called it a virtual cafe. So she started a Google chat group with her class. And so she told the hours that she would be available in that chat, but it's always available to anybody else. So anybody in the class can ask a question and anybody in the class can answer at different times. And she said sometimes she wakes up in the morning and she sees at 3 o'clock in the morning there were, 3 students on there helping each other with something. And so,
It's really good.
and so I thought that was a great idea because
Yeah,
also the
it
ones
is.
that are teaching are learning, reinforcing their own learning.
Yes,
Yeah. That is great. That is a good idea.
that
Mhm.
really is.
And Claire, who's also in the meeting today, she and I also used that cafe model this semester, and I liked it. I did.
Great. Well, I have to say thank you all so much for participating in that Jamboard, because these are really great self-care techniques, and I hope that you continue using those, that you learn from each other on those. Of course, these will be available on the recording if you want to go back and look at them again. They're just really great ways to decompress whether you're a student or a staff member. We all need that. We all need our self-care.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's an honor and pleasure to work with you all, and I just can't say enough. This is celebration time. It's amazing that this was a tough term, everything going online. It's been so challenging, and we made it. And you're all amazing that you're still willing to show up in webinars in December.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for your dedication and everything that you do for students and everything that you do to go above and beyond. So thank you all for everything you do in our state. Seriously.
Absolutely. And our emails are up there on the screen, as you can see. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us. We are always available for support. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of December and a restful, eventually, December.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cheers.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Holidays.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Good
you
to
so
see you.
much. Bye.